Constructed in around 142 AD by the Romans to mark the northwest frontier of their empire, the Antonine Wall stretched right across the country, from Clyde to Forth. It was a mighty symbol of their power and authority, and the biggest, most awe-inspiring building project the people of Scotland had ever seen. The route made the most of landscape features such as ridges, crests and escarpments to create a forbidding and very visible barrier. Built, occupied and then abandoned by the Romans in the space of 20 years, the wall has left its mark on Scotland's landscape. Today, as the wall crosses central Scotland, it passes through 5 different local authorities. It runs through the urban sprawl of North Glasgow, through heavily populated areas such as Kirkintilloch and Falkirk, but also through many smaller, more rural communities. In all cases, it forms a valuable green space for locals, tourists and wildlife. The John Muir Way crosses the line of the wall at various points along its route, while the nearby canal follows the line of the wall between Edinburgh and Glasgow. There are several museums as well, with exhibitions about the wall and wider local history.
The Antonine Wall was constructed on the orders of the Emperor Antoninus Pius, who was the successor to the Emperor Hadrian. And he ordered his legate, Lollius Urbicus, to come and build, as we're told by the classical authors, a new wall, this time of turf, with a ditch outside the north side of it. And in many places it's the ditch, this huge monumental ditch that survives, that actually is what we see a lot in the landscape today. Now behind the wall, to the rear of that, to the south side, are a series of forts and fortlets which would have housed the soldiers and the community along the wall. And we've got additional defensive features. For example, at places like Rough Castle, you can see these defensive pits, which are nicknamed Lilia, which were probably covered over with stakes in them that provided this additional defensive feature outside the entrance to the fort. Plus also then research on the artefacts and things that are found. The pottery suggesting that there's cooking in an African style. We've got the evidence for the Syrian archers. We've got evidence for wives and children. We've got altars showing the diversity of the religious element. The wall was only occupied for round about a generation, 20 years, before they then pulled back and eventually to the line that's Hadrian's Wall. And although there are other incursive periods into Scotland, the wall itself wasn't reoccupied, and Hadrian's Wall then continued on and was rebuilt as the frontier of the empire. We started working on nominating the wall as a World Heritage Site in the early 2000s, and in 2008 it was inscribed by UNESCO as part of the Frontiers of the Roman Empire World Heritage Property, alongside Hadrian's Wall and the Upper German Rhaetian limes. And this has allowed us to do much more partnership working with colleagues across Europe. One key thing has been funding from Creative Europe to create an app platform for all parts of the site in partnership with colleagues in Germany and Austria. And then we've also done a digital game for school children on the Antonine Wall called Go Roman. In joining the UNESCO family, the introductory words of the UNESCO Constitution became particularly important. Since wars begin in the minds of men and women, it is in the minds of men and women that the defences of peace must be constructed.
The Rediscovering the Antonine Wall project started as a partnership between the 5 local authorities and Historic Environment Scotland. They came together for the World Heritage Site nomination and followed this up with a 5-year management plan. Following on from this, consultation undertaken with the partners, stakeholders and communities identified the need for a collaborative project. The purpose of the Rediscovering the Antonine Wall project is, as the name suggests, to raise awareness of the wall and to work with communities along its length to get them to rediscover their Roman heritage. The project is all about regeneration and placemaking, but it's also very much about involving local communities and working with them in a co-design approach. We're looking to build skills and develop people's understanding of their Roman heritage, but we're also looking at working in areas of deprivation and ensuring that everyone has equal access to the Antonine Wall and the projects that we create as a result. The Rediscovering the Antonine Wall project is very diverse and involves a lot of different components. So we have two main strands. We've got capital projects and revenue projects. The two main capital projects are the Roman themed play parks, and we've got 5 of these, 1 in each local authority area, and 5 replica distance stones, again 1 in each local authority area. In terms of the revenue projects that we have approximately 30 community projects where we're working to co-develop projects with communities along the length of the Antonine Wall. We have a volunteering programme which is called the 21st Century Legion, where we work with volunteers to do things such as training them up as tour guides. And finally, we have an education and outreach project, and that's where we work with schools and communities, and it also has a touring museum exhibition. The funding for the project primarily comes from the National Lottery Heritage Fund, so the total cost of the project is around 2.2 million. The National Lottery Heritage Fund provides the majority of that funding. This is supplemented with a significant grant from the Kelvin Valley and Falkirk Leader Programme, funding from various landfill tax credits, contributions from the partners, and some funding from other small pots. In terms of the team that's involved in delivering the Rediscovering the Antonine Wall project, there's a core team of staff based at West Dunbartonshire Council, so that's myself as project manager and 3 other members of staff. In addition to this, where we feel that we have skills gaps or we're in need of professional advice, we've hired consultants. So for example, for the play parks and distance stones, we've hired design teams, and where we're in need of expert advice, we've hired in experts from the University of Glasgow and from the Hunterian Museum. Something that the project aims to do is to deliver projects equally for each local authority, so there's a shared budget that's spent across the authorities and a set number of projects to be delivered in each area. The Antonine Wall is 37 miles long, so it's a very extensive monument. It goes through the central belt of Scotland, which is one of the most heavily populated areas. So one of the main challenges of the project has been to work with communities in all of these areas and to ensure that everyone's voice is heard and that everyone has access to the wall and to the projects that we're putting forward. The beneficiaries for the project are wide-ranging. Our primary beneficiaries are the communities that live along the length of the wall. So we very much work to do co-development of projects with them. Some communities have approached us with project ideas that they want support for funding and developing, and we work with them to build their capacity so that they can deliver these projects and then go on to deliver other projects in future. We also want to work with deprived and harder to reach groups, so groups who would not normally be engaged in their heritage, and to encourage them to become engaged and to show them that heritage is for all and to remove barriers from them participating.
The Antonine Wall was originally built to keep people apart, to control and minimise access. But today, the opposite is true, and it is now a catalyst for uniting communities and regenerating overlooked and forgotten spaces. New statues, commissioned by local communities, offer something new for visitors to explore and seek out. New groups and audiences are beginning to engage with the wall and explore its relevance to them. It offers a new perspective through which to view oneself, others and the wider world, moving, as UNESCO hope, towards the defence of peace and beyond boundaries.